Welcome to Cruise News, your daily update on everything happening at sea. Visit cruisenews.io to see today's stories and sign up for email alerts. So imagine you're planning this multi-million-dollar city budget around a gleaming, state-of-the-art cruise ship, right? It's scheduled to arrive in your town, the local restaurants have staffed up, the tour buses are idling, the red carpet is literally rolled out.
Oh, yeah. It's a huge deal for a local economy.
Exactly. But then you find out the water in your harbor is suddenly, I don't know, a foot too shallow to let that ship safely dock. All that planning, all that money, it just vanishes overnight.
Right. And that's the fragile reality of the industry right now. We often look at an itinerary and we see it as this guaranteed promise. But a port call is actually, it's the final precarious step in a years-long dance with nature and economics.
Which honestly perfectly frames our focus today.
Yeah.
We are looking at the industry through a very specific port and planning lens. We really want to understand the long game here.
Yeah, the gears turning behind the scenes.
Exactly. Like, how did the gears of this sprawling industry turn years in advance to make sure that a ship actually arrives and that there are people waiting to handle it? So we'll be exploring the physical constraints of adding brand new destinations, the behind-the-scenes hustle of terminal life that makes embarkation possible, and, of course, the intense financial planning required to secure passenger demand all the way into 2027.
It truly is an intricate puzzle. When you walk onto a ship for a vacation, you're experiencing the final result of years of incredibly complex logistical maneuvering.
Right.
You have to consider the human capital required to run the terminals, the actual physical depth of the water at the ports of call, and the revenue strategies that ensure the vessel is profitable long before it even leaves the dock.
Yeah, you can't just build a billion-dollar ship and hope for the best.
No, not at all. You have to meticulously engineer the entire ecosystem around it.
And that ecosystem starts, well, exactly where the passenger journey begins, which is the cruise terminal. Operators are looking down the road, and they're actively planning for future labor constraints. Which brings us to Carnival Cruise Line. They've officially opened applications for a second summer of their Fun-ternship program.
The Fun-ternship, right?
Yeah, it's running for the summer of 2026, specifically in that June to August window.
And the scale of this initiative is pretty notable, too. They are looking to place more than 100 high school students into this program.
Yeah, over 100. The specifics here are that it's a paid 8-week program for high school students who are 17 and older.
Hmm.
And it's highly localized, which is interesting.
Very localized, yeah.
They're targeting students who live in 6 very specific home port communities. So we're talking Baltimore, Tampa, Jacksonville, Norfolk, New York City, and Long Beach. Applications close on June 8th, by the way. The entire focus of this internship is terminal operations. So these kids are going to be working embarkation days, dealing with guest processing, and handling the intense logistics of turning a ship around.
Which is no small feat.
Oh, definitely not.
Yeah.
And it all gets capped off with an onboard luncheon and a ship tour with company leaders. Christine Duffy, the president of Carnival, has been very vocal about how this is designed to build local economic ties and, help students develop real-world confidence.
Which is a brilliant way to frame it from a community relations standpoint. You take local youth and you integrate them into an industry that heavily impacts their city's waterfront.
Right.
It just builds so much goodwill with the municipal governments that lease out these terminals to them.
Okay, let's unpack this because anyone who has ever been on a cruise knows what embarkation day actually looks like.
Oh, it's intense.
It is a highly coordinated frenzy.
Okay.
I always compare the chaos of an embarkation day to orchestrating a Broadway show inside a busy transit hub.
That's a great analogy.
Right. You have thousands of people arriving at once, mountains of luggage, security screenings, document checks, and everyone is either overly excited or incredibly stressed out.
Yeah, mostly stress.
Exactly. So my question is this. Does a 17-year-old high schooler truly have the operational maturity to handle the immense pressure and logistics of a live embarkation day? Or, is this primarily just a community PR exercise for Carnival?
What's fascinating here is that you are absolutely justified in questioning the operational load you can put on a teenager in that kind of pressure cooker. Let's be totally realistic. A high school junior is not going to be the one making high-stakes security calls.
No, I wouldn't think so.
Or, managing a critical failure in the facial recognition boarding system. There is certainly a significant public relations benefit for Carnival to be seen as a local job creator. But if we look past the PR, this is a very calculated investment in the long-term hospitality pipeline.
I hear that, but I'm going to push back again here. Are we really supposed to believe a high schooler taking a summer job is thinking about A career in maritime logistics for the 2030s?
Well,
Because most 17-year-olds just want gas money, right? And maybe something to put on a college application.
you hit the nail on the head regarding their immediate motivation. They want cash. But Carnival's motivation is conditioning. Think about the trajectory of the cruise industry right now. Ships are getting larger, which means passenger volumes at these specific home ports are surging.
Oh, for sure. Ships are massive now.
Exactly. Terminals are physically expanding to handle ships that carry 4, 5, or 6,000 passengers at a time. As those terminals expand, the competition for shoreside talent, the people who actually make the operation run smoothly, it becomes incredibly fierce.
Because they aren't just competing with other cruise lines.
Precisely. They are competing with local hotels, airports, and the broader tourism sector for the exact same labor pool. A competent, cool-headed guest services agent is highly sought after anywhere.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So by bringing these high schoolers in early, giving them an hourly wage, and formally training them in guest processing, Carnival is essentially demystifying the industry. How do you handle an irate passenger who forgot their birth certificate?
Oh, boy.
Right. Or how do you smoothly route a bottleneck of 500 people at customs? You learn by shadowing the veterans. They're showing these young adults that a career in maritime hospitality doesn't just mean disappearing out to sea for 6 months.
Right, there's a shoreside component.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There is a viable, upwardly mobile career path right in their hometown. So while the teens just want summer spending money today, Carnival is planting a seed.
It's essentially early talent acquisition disguised as a summer job.
Pretty much.
But even if you have a perfectly staffed, flawlessly running terminal in a major city like Baltimore, it means absolutely nothing if the ships physically cannot dock at their destinations.
That is the ultimate operational bottleneck right there.
Which brings us from the human logistics of these established home ports to the physical and geographical challenges of developing brand new ports of call. Because it's one thing to staff a terminal in New York City. It's another thing entirely to navigate a luxury ship into a much smaller regional harbor.
Oh, absolutely.
And right now, Erie, Pennsylvania, is making an aggressive push to attract luxury Great Lakes cruises. Local officials just had major talks with an organization called Cruise the Great Lakes.
This highlights a significant shift in where cruise lines are looking for growth. The Great Lakes region is booming for small ship, luxury cruising right now.
Yeah.
Passengers are looking for closer to home, culturally immersive domestic itineraries. It's moving way beyond just the big city ports like Chicago or Detroit. Small harbors like Erie are fighting for a piece of the action.
And the financial pie they are fighting for is enormous. I mean, the 2026 economic forecast for Great Lakes cruising is projected to cross the $300 million mark. Yeah, that's a 25% increase from 2025. We're talking about 175,000 passenger visits, which breaks down to about 23,000 unique passengers moving through these towns over the season. The forecast expects over 800 port calls, utilizing 10 different ships operated by 7 different lines. It's basically an absolute gold rush.
It is. However, there is a severe physical constraint looming over all of this economic optimism.
The water levels.
That is the reality, yeah.
Yeah.
The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers is predicting below average water levels for the 2026 boating season. We are looking at Lakes Michigan and Huron being about a foot below their long-term averages.
A whole foot.
A full foot. And Lake Erie is expected to be several inches low right through the heart of the summer season.
And we are already seeing the devastating impact this has on commercial shipping. The Lake Carriers Association reported that in 2025, U.S. flagged freighter cargo dropped by 8.9%.
Yeah, that's massive.
Almost a 9% drop. Largely because these immense ships had to load lighter. They literally couldn't put as much iron ore or salt on board because of draft limits, meaning, how deep the ship sits in the water and major issues with lagging dredging in these channels.
Because if the water is a foot lower, a fully loaded freighter risks scraping the bottom or running aground,
Right.
which is an environmental and a financial disaster. They have no choice but to carry less weight to ensure they float higher.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because managing a ship in these conditions sounds like a high-stakes game of physical Tetris, where the board is slowly shrinking, but the blocks are staying the exact same size.
That's one way to look at it.
So if commercial freighters are already dropping 8.9% of their cargo just to avoid scraping the bottom, how realistic is it for the luxury cruise sector to forecast a 25% financial increase and over 800 port calls? Aren't they fighting the exact same physical reality as the freighters?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, you have to look closely at the pieces in that game of Tetris. The cruise lines are playing with much smaller, more flexible blocks.
Oh, how so?
Well, you have to differentiate the operational profiles of the vessels. A commercial freighter loaded with industrial materials is incredibly heavy and requires a deep draft. Cruise ships operating on the Great Lakes, these are operated by lines like Pearl Seas Cruises, Ponant, and Victory Cruise Lines. They are highly specialized vessels.
Oh, so they're built differently.
Exactly. They are specifically designed to operate with conservative drafts, so they just do not sit as deep in the water to begin with.
So they can slip into harbors that a massive freighter wouldn't dare approach.
Correct. And crucially, they have flexible itineraries. If you are a listener booked on one of these luxury Great Lakes cruises, this water level issue is directly relevant to you.
How does it affect the passenger?
You might go to bed expecting to dock in Erie the next morning, but because shifting winds pushed the water level down another few inches overnight, making the pier too shallow, the captain will simply adjust the schedule.
Oh.
Yeah, you wake up and suddenly you're visiting Ashtabula or Cleveland instead. A freighter delivering coal to a specific power plant cannot do that.
Right, they have a strict destination.
Exactly. However, your point about the physical reality is still totally valid because this dynamic puts immense financial pressure on the small towns themselves.
Because if Erie wants a slice of that $300 million pie, they have to guarantee the cruise ships can actually dock safely.
Spot on. The cruise lines have the flexibility to go elsewhere. So for a community like Erie, the burden falls on local infrastructure funding. To deepen a harbor, you have to dredge it, which means bringing in specialized heavy machinery to literally scoop mud and sediment off the seafloor.
That sounds incredibly expensive.
It is an incredibly expensive, highly regulated process.
And how does a small town actually fund something like that?
They have to seek federal grants from the Army Corps, they issue municipal bonds, or they leverage local taxes. It essentially becomes a race. Which town can secure the dredging funds fast enough to maintain harbor access in a low-water year?
Oh, I see.
The town that digs the deepest captures those luxury tourism dollars. The natural constraints end up dictating the local economic policy.
Which perfectly illustrates the sheer scale of the long-term planning required here. We've covered the human logistics of training a workforce and the physical, multi-year port infrastructure required just to park a ship. But all of those local investments, from a teenager's paycheck to a city's dredging budget, they rely entirely on the cruise lines locking in consumer demand years in advance.
Absolutely. Without a guarantee of future revenue, the entire capital-intensive structure of this industry collapses.
And right now, Holland America Line is pulling out all the stops to secure that future revenue. They have just launched their 153rd anniversary sale. The booking window for this runs from April 2nd through April 30th of 2026. But here's the kicker. This sale covers sailings from April 2026 all the way through the spring of 2027.
Wow.
We are talking about locking in passengers a full year in advance.
To convince consumers to part with their money that far out, the incentives have to be exceptionally aggressive.
And the perks are undeniable. They're offering up to 30% off cruise-only fares. They're cutting deposits in half. They have a kids' sail-free component on select departures for guests 18 and under. And, maybe the most enticing part, up to $400 in onboard credit per stateroom, depending on the length of the trip and the room category.
That's a significant credit.
Yeah. Now, this excludes short trips of 3 days or less in their grand voyages, but for the core itineraries, it's a really heavy push. For example, they're advertising a 7-day Alaska Explorer cruise starting at just $103 per person per day.
It is also worth analyzing how they structure their promotional calendar because they are actively running overlapping campaigns.
All right.
Before this April anniversary sale even kicks off, they are running a shorter spring sale in late March. That one is highly targeted. It's just for select sailings happening right around the corner in April and May of 2026. That spring sale offers up to $200 in onboard credit.
And the crucial detail that Holland America is heavily promoting is that both of these sales, the spring sale and the 153rd anniversary sale, can be combined with their Have It All premium fare. For those who aren't familiar, the Have It All fare is a bundle that bakes your shore excursions, a signature beverage package, specialty dining, and a Wi-Fi surf package right into your upfront ticket price.
Which fundamentally alters the psychology of the purchase.
Right. So what does this all mean? Because when I look at this, I see these overlapping sales, the hundreds of dollars in onboard credits, the reduced deposits, and these bundle options, and it just looks like a high-stakes chess game of consumer psychology.
It really is.
By aggressively pushing spring 2027 bookings right now, with so many overlapping discounts, is Holland America showing total confidence in the market? Or are they secretly worried about filling ships next year and, panicking to lock in your wallet early?
This raises an important question about the underlying mechanisms of cruise profitability. It's really tempting to look at a sale offering 30% off and $400 in credit and assume it's a desperate attempt to fill empty cabins.
Right, that's the gut reaction.
But that fundamentally misreads the modern revenue model. It isn't about panic. It is an exercise in yield management and ecosystem capture.
Let's break those terms down for our listeners.
Certainly. Let's start with yield management. This is the strategy of selling the right cabin to the right person at the right time to maximize total revenue. The cruise line wants to lock in a baseline of passengers early. This ensures strong load factors, which is simply the industry term for the percentage of available cabins that are filled. If they can guarantee a ship is 60% booked a year in advance, they have the financial security to slowly raise prices on the remaining 40% of cabins as the sale date approaches.
Oh, I see. So the early discounts actually subsidize their ability to charge a premium later.
Exactly. And the second part of the strategy is ecosystem capture. By pushing the have-it-all premium fare and handing you a chunk of onboard credit, the cruise line is ensuring your entire vacation budget is spent with them, rather than leaking out into the local ports.
Oh, wow.
Think about your own habits. If you book a cheap base fare, you might decide to hire a private third-party tour guide in Alaska, or you might buy your drinks at a local pub in port. That is lost revenue for Holland America.
But if they bundle it, they already have my excursion money before I even pack my suitcase.
That is the crux of it. They have already captured your dining budget, your Wi-Fi budget, and your beverage budget. And let's talk about the psychology of that $400 onboard credit.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
In behavioral economics, this is known as the house money effect. When you board the ship, that $400 feels like a gift. It lowers your psychological barrier to spending. You are much more likely to book a premium spa treatment or buy expensive retail photography if you feel like the cruise line is basically paying for it.
And once that credit runs out,
the data shows you just keep spending. Because you felt like you secured a fantastic deal on the front end of the vacation, you're actually likely to spend more out of pocket on the back end.
that is wild.
They secure your deposit a year in advance, granting them incredible cash flow. They lock you into their proprietary dining and excursion ecosystem, boxing out local competitors. They aren't worried about filling the ships. They are carefully optimizing exactly how much revenue they extract from every single person who walks up the gangway. It's masterclass financial planning.
It really is a brilliantly interconnected web. Which brings us to a thought I want to leave you with today. When we analyze this industry through this port and planning lens, you realize that your actions as a consumer ripple out for years into the future. When you take advantage of a Holland America sale today to book a cruise for the spring of 2027, you aren't just crossing off a calendar and planning your personal vacation.
Right.
You are providing the exact, tangible economic demand signals that tell municipal leaders in small ports like Erie, Pennsylvania, to start issuing bonds and dredging their harbors. You are providing the financial stability that tells operators in terminals like Baltimore to start hiring and training the next generation of 17-year-old workers. The deposit you pay today is the capital that builds the maritime infrastructure of tomorrow. Your future vacation is literally funding today's reality. Thanks for listening to Cruise News. Visit cruisenews.io to catch up on the latest updates and sign up for free email alerts.